busy.
And then if they say, well, you know, it's gonna cost, you say, well, John Deere said, we'll better go for the same thing. So, half the time they're gonna say, well, what are they gonna do?
Don't even have my glasses. Can't
They're
see.
like anybody else, they wanna just make a sale.
Very standoff.
Where's everybody else at?
I don't know.
Probably
You're
ought to
saying
call.
that.
I had no clue. It's like, normally I have my paperwork sitting on the
Clint's
desk
on
somewhere.
his way, so now that he's come to, I figured, well, we'll just wait a few minutes. And he can be part of it too, so.
You'll make the call.
We gotta pass the fireworks ordinance, but the other one is put on hold.
Yep, totally missed this one.
Yeah, you can.
Wasn't on my calendar, wasn't on my
John.
thing at the table. It's like, shoot, too much stuff going on. Yeah, lately I have been, yeah, no kidding there.
Yeah. Yeah, he's,
Where's Clint? Is he still coming?
yes,
Okay.
said he was already on his way too, so he's, all right.
I've been looking for
There he
you.
is. Why?
Because you're fun to talk to.
Whichever one you want. All right. Nobody else is coming? Okay. Let's call the meeting of the Green Lake Township Planning Commission, regular meeting for April 28th, 2026, to order at 6:13. Can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Roll. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried with changes. Okay. Approval of the minutes from the meeting of March 24th, 2026. Anybody have any additions, changes, thoughts, comments?
I would motion to accept as presented.
Motion to approve as presented from Richard Clark. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Kaludi first there, so, discussion, anyone have anything?
Sorry for being late.
Sends that. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. First public comment. This time, would anybody in the public like to comment? Okay, no public comment. Anyone have a conflict of interest for the agenda tonight?
None.
No. Okay. Correspondence, we don't have any correspondence, just additional information. So, old business. Currently, the old business is still old business. They're still working on the draft for the sign ordinance and not quite completed yet, so that will remain in their old business.
Any feedback on it all?
Is there any feedback on that?
No, I spoke to our attorneys to review it last week at a training conference, and we apologize for the delay.
right. Moving on to new business. PSE 26-003 and PSP 26-002, a request for a special use event permit for BAM fireworks at 7770 US Highway 31, Grun, Michigan, owned and operated by Jeffrey and Jill Keeper. This time, if you'd like to.
Hello, folks. Jeff Sheever, I think I know most of you folks. You know us. My wife Jill, as you said, here requesting a special use permit,
Will you talk a
7770.
little bit closer to the,
I'm sorry. Here requesting a special use permit for 7770 US 31 South, BAM Fireworks. This is our 8th year, and we plan on running things exactly the way we've run them for the last 7. We don't anticipate any changes except for maybe the traffic flow. Not sure what to think of that. I will say that last year was our 2nd best year ever, except for COVID. The year of COVID was number 1 because no one could do anything else but light fireworks, stay home and light fireworks. So last year was our 2nd best year, and everything went very smooth. I think a couple small changes to some signage made a big difference. We certainly had lots of comments on how our property and our tent looked last year. I think last year we spoke of the year prior having some issues with people slamming on brakes. They just weren't seeing us in time, and I think there's some small changes in a couple of the banners that we were allowed to put up that I think that we were supposed to be allowed to put up the prior year. But anyways, it was a great year. Lots of comments, and we're expecting a good year this year.
great.
So, not really any changes that we could think of. I think we turned in all the paperwork that we do every year. The insurance, I think you may remember, that doesn't come in until June 1st. I think is it May 1st or June 1st? It's not renewed yet. The insurance that we turned in was current, but when we open, what you have wouldn't be, so we will bring you a copy as soon as we can have that available.
We go through insurance every year, don't we?
Every year, yeah, we do. We have to wait for that because we buy our insurance from our distributor, and our policy
Just when
renews,
your
I think.
renewal is.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
Anybody else have any questions?
All happy with township rules and regulations now? No problems with anything else?
I think everything went really smooth. I don't have any questions. I think we've got it down now, including our inspections. We had, how many surprise inspections last year? I think 5, 2 in one day.
Oh, really?
Pretend shoppers coming through, and after 20 minutes of shopping, reminding us that they're state inspectors. So,
I'd rather get it over with in one day anyway.
well, we had 5 altogether, five inspections last year, passed every one of them. So
That's good.
they're not finding any issues. We didn't even really get any warnings for anything, so I think they're pretty happy with the way we're doing things.
Good deal.
What are they looking for? I mean,
A lot of weird things that people wouldn't even think about. You can't have any product within 5 feet of any entranceway. Every fuse in the tent needs to be covered, even from manufacturers when they come from China. Most of you probably know what a pack of bottle rockets looks like, wrapped in cellophane. The wicks sticking out. If the wicks stick out 1/4 of an inch past the cellophane, we have to do something about it. Tape it, put them in boxes with covers on it, or storage containers with boxes. No wicks can be showing. Nothing over, it's gotta be 6 inches under the fire breaks. All of our fire breaks need to be every 6 feet. All product need to be 6 inches under those fire breaks. Our fire extinguishers are renewed every year. They're looking for which fire extinguishers we have. We need a wet and dry fireworks every 20 feet, is it? We need 4 in the tent. They're measuring entranceways, aisles. Aisles need to be 36 inches. One was 35 and got called out 2 years ago for the 35 inches. So they're on it. And we've learned to be on it too. I measure before we do anything. Everything is measured before they come in. I think that's all I've got.
Any comments from zoning? All good? Yeah, okay. Somebody would like to comment, make a motion, anything?
Motion to approve?
Okay.
Support.
Motion to approve from Schuster, support from Bart. Further comments? I guess I would make one comment that, yes, approval granted, subject to, us getting a copy of that updated insurance policy.
Absolutely.
Is that a motion that you'd like to add that to, I guess I would say?
Yeah, motion to approve with the addition of the insurance being presented.
I still second it.
Second, all right. Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Thank
Great.
you very much. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. I like buying your fireworks. So, moving on to other business, well, I'm gonna save it for discussion, I guess, but, next would be liaison reports from the Board of Appeals.
We had one, I don't have my paperwork in front of me, obviously, but they're approved for a garage addition. That was, probably shouldn't even had to come to the board due to the fact they had two streets there on the corner, so pretty cut and dry deal as far as. Unfortunately, the way the rules are, they had to come before us for, the easement, setback on it, yeah. Yeah, they had trees along the one road and they didn't have to take those down. They're not looking to have that big of a garage at all, so pretty cut and dry.
Anybody have any questions for zoning appeal? No? Okay. All right, second public comment. Would you like to comment? All right, I'll be on that. Discussion, so, everybody sees all the stuff that we got for the, moratorium information on data center stuff. And you're going to give us a lowdown?
I can as best I can
Yes.
try to make this make sense. On the first packet, starts off with
Jason,
an ordinance. Sorry, the first packet starts with these that look like they're very similar. The first one that says an ordinance to enact a temporary moratorium data centers. That one is a police power ordinance, and that one will be before the township board. The one that says effective 8 days after publication, that is a zoning ordinance. Per our attorneys, their recommendation, if we choose to look at having a moratorium on data centers, is to do both a zoning and a police power ordinance. The zoning ordinance would come through the planning commission recommendation to the township board. The police power ordinance would be at the township board. They would review them both at the same time. Per our attorney, they believe that a moratorium is 6 months is a good guide for us to be able to put together a data center ordinance. Their belief is we cannot exclude them. It would be exclusionary zoning. We can regulate where they would go. So some other communities are regulating where they would go. What would make sense in Green Lake Township, as an example, to review would be in the industrial complex per se. The large packet with the blue covering, that came from the Michigan Township Association. Through our attorneys, that gives a good explanation on data centers. It talks about a lot of information in there. There's a lot of different sizes. Everybody is really concerned about the two that are down in South Michigan, Saline and Southwest, that are on hundreds and hundreds of acres that are hypercenters versus smaller scale ones that have been in the area for quite a long time, probably since the invention of computers. So that's kind of where we're at. I guess it's up to you guys if you would like to make a recommendation to the board. We can get it in front at the May meeting, or if we'd like to wait till other members are present to do that. We're missing obviously, too. So our attorneys believe that, and recommendation at last week's training, that we need to have something in place. We need to put something in place. What gets communities in trouble is if they don't have anything in place. So, because we can't exclude them, so then we try to scramble. So we just can't use a moratorium to block them. Some people think that if you can get a moratorium, that blocks them, but all that does is buys us time to create this. We can't really extend it past 6 months. They said it has gone up to 9, but if it gets past 9, then they realize it's a stall technique. So that could get us into some legal trouble. So just some things to think about. There's a lot of literature out there on it. The fourth packet that came, I went to an attorney's training seminar, and Mr. Volkening went to Consumers Energy, put this on. So he went from electrical company's perspective. So we kind of came back to compare our notes. So, and that's what that packet has in there. Obviously, everybody's concerned is the electrical usage, environmental factors like water usage and all that stuff. So that's kind of where we're at.
What was the electric company's stance on the power usage situation?
I'm not going to get the wording correctly, but in layman's terms, the way Michigan is set up, Michigan is ahead of the curve in regards to they cannot sell the power unless they have the power. So a power company has to have power that they can sell, meaning they won't strip residences of power, or blackouts is what everybody hears about, rolling blackouts and stuff. So in our area, consumers or Cherry Land Electric would have to have the power that they can sell. They said that the data center in Saline will use 4% of all electricity in Michigan. So like they would use 4% of
One little place.
one place that's going to use 4% of the energy. But so that's why some things are happening in Lansing and Washington on this. They did say that Saline did not have anything in place as far as an ordinance, and then when they tried to, then it was too late. So that's kind of that history on that. Obviously, you're talking different scales of companies depending on sizes. I mean, if you're talking Microsoft and Google versus smaller scale ones, we have data centers that are in the definition, our service boards technically are data centers. I mean, hospitals use them. I mean, they've been here for a long time, just on smaller scales. And probably most people don't know that they even exist. So, some good conversation and literature and talk. These two pieces of documents from the attorneys are what they're recommending we adopt, because that's what they're going to litigate as far as our attorneys go. This is what they're using for municipalities around the state.
The board recommended adoption of
No,
these?
the township attorney
Our township attorneys.
Oh, okay.
recommended that this is what we have in place.
Yeah, this is their template of what they're using for their municipalities that they represent.
So,
But we don't have to tonight. We're missing 2 board members.
It's just a
Um,
moratorium, it's not for.
It's not for the actual ordinance,
Yeah,
right?
so-
Yep.
Pat was clearly pro moratorium.
Yep.
Have we had any inquiries yet?
Prior to my time, we had Mary Jo remembers this one, but we had a request at 31 in Gonder on the south side. For the old garage. For, I don't want to use the word small or mid-size. Bitcoin mining. So in the terms of size-wise, it would be a small or mid-size. They're broken down by wattage. The hyperscales are what we're having in Southwest Michigan. I think in the literature that is from consumers, there's 2 currently in the state of Michigan that are of that size or in the process that are of that magnitude. The one in Saline, I think, is like 250 or 260 acres.
At this point, we have no current zoning that covers anything like that. So if they come and apply, going towards their, devil's advocate side here, they come and apply, are they free to, we're a business, we're not, we're self-contained, we can go in the commercial district. And we really can't stop them because we don't have anything saying they can't be in the commercial district.
Correct.
We have to say where they can be rather than where they can't be. So,
I don't see a harm in passing a moratorium as soon as possible.
If we did the moratorium and it was recommended to the board, we can go before the May Township Board meeting with both the zoning moratorium and then let them review the police power, and then they could act on it at the May meeting.
we don't have to recommend the police power. That's their decision.
That's their
We're just
decision.
gonna recommend that.
The zoning.
A zoning amendment to
Yeah.
regulate and create an ordinance around data centers. That's is that gonna cover everything in that to get the township on board for the moratorium?
I do believe so from our attorney's
Okay.
advisement, yes. And then we'll get to work on writing the ordinance. It gives us the time to get the ordinance and definitions and stuff to work on in the next few months at our level and then before the board.
All right. I'm not opposed to going at it. I just want everybody to be informed as to how we're gonna jump into this thing, so we're not just throwing it out there. If there's actually a point where people wanna do a little research for a month before we make any decision on anything that we do. Yes, time's your enemy, but also not knowing what we're talking about is another enemy here too, so. Once the clock starts on the moratorium, then we have to do something about it. So, I'm just bringing that up as what I mean.
It carries us through the summer, and 6 months, we're in May, we're into the fall, so it gets us through the summer and fall. So by the end of the year, have something in place, and the moratorium allows us the time to do that.
I'm personally, to me, setting it ahead and moving it on right now, Mr. Lawyers, we're not gonna be changing this anyways, it's just us recommending movement, so I have no problem moving forward with it without the other board members, but that's not up to me.
Brad?
Has Pat been given a copy, or has he seen these? Do you know?
Pat has that blue copy, and he's had these from a few weeks ago, so.
Okay.
And so has, as I say, Lindsay had her packet picked up a couple of weeks ago, so she has these documents. The only one that Lindsay doesn't have is the last one from consumers, because that one just came in from our training. And there's conversation we had. I've been reading on these. It's like a special use permit in a special district. It gives you time once an ordinance is passed that there's a lot of factors to put into that ordinance, and probably is the right way to do it. Like any other business coming to the township, they're gonna go through the special use process, and the standards will be established.
I would think if we look through these and we could be able to make some sort of stab at it, maybe in one of the ensuing months.
Yes, I mean, right now, all we need to do is just make a recommendation, formal recommendation to the board that we'd like to have, pursue an ordinance change, amendment change. In the, it's in the master plan, really. Isn't that dated out into the master plan?
I do believe so. Is that the technical verbiage? The ordinance amendment?
It's just gonna be solely ordinance?
Ordinance.
All right, I didn't know if we had anything in the master plan that we redid for, okay. All right. And then, so,
I'd like to make a motion to recommend the moratorium.
well, we're not recommending the moratorium, right? We're just recommending the zoning change, and then the township board will be the one that can enact a moratorium, because they're gonna go, well, we're not ready for this yet. We'll just enact a moratorium so that we have time to
Put one together.
come up with a wording, but in the meantime, no one can do anything about it till we come up with something.
That's my motion.
There you go. So,
That covers it.
we have a motion to recommend the zoning ordinance amendment change
I'll second it.
regarding data centers. And we have a second by Schuster to that recommendation. You need anything else to cover that?
So you're recommending these two documents to the board?
Yep. Anybody else have any thoughts on that? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Does anyone know the acreage of vacant industrial land we have?
Go-Go Squeeze owns all of the industrial property. I think they own all of it, or is there one little chunk just west of it that was also industrial?
Yeah, it's very small.
That's really small.
Probably less than 10 acres.
I'd say, I think there's one small parcel
Yeah.
on the west side that they don't
Sits on
own.
the other side of the pond.
I think so,
Mind
yeah.
you, data centers don't have to be flat, they can have multiple storage.
Well, so I mean, there's a lot of facets to zoning. If you don't want, if you really want to regulate some of that stuff, we can regulate, that they would have to have a certain amount of renewable energy to support their business, that they can't,
We need a lot of data.
regulations that they can't tax the grid to a point that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we'd have to see a lot.
Can't be so far within a wetland or where there's an endangered species like a bald eagle. There's a lot of ways you can go around things to make sure that they are where they belong. But I'm not saying no, I'm just trying to point out things that everybody needs, we all need to educate
more
ourselves
data.
on this information here so that we can have that discussion, because the zoning ordinance is gonna come back to us to formulate something, so.
Was there a need to put the need for a zoning ordinance with the motion?
No, what we're recommending is right
Yeah.
there. That is what it's saying. It is putting it out that there is a need to, it says right at the top, to
Okay.
protect the public health, safety, welfare by establishing temporary moratorium on the one for data centers, but, this is all in the effort to protect the public, and not just let something come in through. If you don't have anything, then they can go anywhere. So, yeah.
Okay,
Anybody else have any discussion on that?
Not on that, but I had a question on this one that got postponed.
Yeah.
Why would they need to split a course, they can split a 10 into 2 5s and build in the R2 zone.
But the application said 2 daughters. So I am, and if you look at the addresses, it looks like the property is not occupied by the owner. They have a Traverse City address, and I think it's a 10.1 acres.
It's adjacent to R5 and the park. I mean, so it's like, not like you'd be sticking spot zoning in the middle of something. You're just gonna change it from one side to the property on the other side, basically. I think that was gonna be my only question on it is, you know, what's the advantage? It's not like you can't split this up into lots and have residential. I'm assuming that, you know, if you're gonna have horses, animals, there's probably some, you know, a barn, there are advantages to being in the R5 district. So making them bigger parcels, is probably,
Oh, they're wanting to go to R5.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was
It's-
the other way around. I didn't see
No.
that.
No,
currently-
they wanna go to R5, so.
Okay.
Yep.
It's currently, currently has 4 parcels that he wants to
Right. okay.
make 4
Makes
parcels
sense.
into 2, go from R1 to R5. It gives him more flexibility with his land with the 2 daughters. So yeah,
kind of
that's what
unusual
the survey
for
in there,
us.
he's doing it backwards.
If it was, you know, I'm looking at it, if it was sitting in the middle of R1, then no, it makes no sense to do that, but it's right next to the park. That's not gonna get developed, it's, you know, it's right next to open space, so
Thank you, I couldn't figure it out from the overhead.
that was a difficult picture too, to know what was going down with that property, yeah.
Yeah, if you look at the overhead, you see it's in the 4 parcels, but then the survey, so that he could meet the zoning for the length and depth ratios, that's why it's not a perfect 5-5 split. It's not exactly, there's not cut right in half on that
Yeah.
survey.
Mostly it was the placement of it in relation to the other properties around it.
Yeah,
It kind of, you know, shows the overhead, but it doesn't really show where that parcel is on,
Parcels.
on that.
yeah.
Well, maybe I guess if there was a way to get a picture overhead with those drawn in there, just so people could see it
See
in
it.
relation to what's around it.
Okay.
That might help them out a little bit.
But it's already surveyed in expectation of approval.
It is surveyed down there?
Hmm?
Let's see, I have not been there a while, it was a while ago when I looked at it, but, so, all right, anybody else have any discussion? Okay, somebody like to make a motion to adjourn at 6:47?
I would move we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by 6:47. Do we have a second?
6:47.
Yes. Second.
Second by Dundee. Discussion, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Okay. Okay.
Seconded by my buddy over there.
Uh,
Where the hell did the buttons on these?
So,